Anyway, let's move on. I believe we're on chapter 29. Right? We just did this? Yeah. Yeah, we're on chapter 29. We're on chapter 29 of Genesis. We schmoving along. Jacob arrives in Paddan Aram. And then Jacob continued on his journey and came to the land of the eastern peoples. He saw a well in the open country with 3 flocks of sheep lying near it because the flocks were watered from that well. The stone over the mouth of the well was large. All right, so you got a well, all right, with a gigantic stone on top of the well blocking the well. All right, with a couple of shepherds there, but not enough to move the well, to move the rock off the well. When all the flocks were gathered there, the shepherds would roll the stone away from the well's mouth and water the sheep. They then would return the stone to its place over the mouth of the well. So, presumably, there was someone going around poisoning the wells. All right, was poisoning all the wells so that they could own the water. All right, they poison other people's wells so that their wells would be more used by more shepherds so they could sell the water for more. All right, so the shepherds would put a giant boulder on top of the well that actually had unpoisoned water so that when all the shepherds come, they will be able to move the giant stone away with enough people. So Jacob asked the shepherds, "My brothers, where are you from?" "We are from Haran," they replied. He said, "Do you know Laban, Nahor's grandson?" "Yes, we know him," they answered. Jacob said to them, "Is he well?" "Yes, he is," they said. "And here comes his daughter Rachel with the sheep." "Look," he said, the sun is still high. It is not time for the flocks to be gathered. Water the sheep and take them back to the pasture." "We can't," they replied, "until all the flocks are gathered and the stone is rolled away from the mouth of the well. Then we will water the sheep." Right, they had to wait for enough people. Why do Jews have the long bits of hair by their ears? I'll give you the lore on that right after we finish this chapter. But it's not like necessary. To be fair, it's not necessary. It's like okay, I'll just tell you now. It says literally in the Bible that you shouldn't shave with a razor your sideburns. All right, that is a direct quote from the Bible. So some people take it to an extreme and they grow like the long hair over there to basically be like, "Yo, look how little I am shaving from my sideburns." That's kind of what the lore is, and it's just taken as a way to say, "Look at this, I don't shave at all." Anyway, yeah, no, I don't have like the long hair things, if that's what you were wondering. Anyway, we can't until all the flocks are gathered and the stone has been rolled away. While he was still talking to them, Rachel came with their father's sheep, for she was a shepherd. When Jacob saw Rachel, daughter of his uncle Laban, and Laban's sheep, he went over and rolled the stone away from the mouth of the well and watered his uncle's sheep. Then Jacob kissed Rachel and began to weep aloud. Oh my God, he cried. He told Rachel he was a relative of her father and the son of Rebekah, so she ran and told her father. As soon as Laban heard the news about Jacob, his sister's son, he hurried to meet him. He embraced him and kissed him, brought him home, and said to Jacob, and there Jacob told him all these things. All right, so this is pretty cool. This is pretty awesome. I think this is hilarious. So, notice how he embraced and kissed him. Now, he did the same thing to Eliezer. 1 generation ago, well, when Eliezer came to Laban a couple chapters ago to get Laban's sister Rebekah to marry Isaac, all right, he also was hugged and kissed to check if he had jewels because he was super rich. So essentially, over here, Laban heard the news about Jacob. His sister's son hurried to meet him. He embraced him and kissed him because he figured this guy's probably also rich. So, he felt them up to see if he had any, like, diamonds and stuff. Then Laban said to him, "You're my own flesh and blood." Of course. Jacob marries Leah and Rachel. All right. After Jacob stayed with him for a whole month, Laban said to him, "Just because you are a relative of mine, you should you work for me for nothing?" "I know that you are going to work for me, but of course we're going to pay you. Tell me what your wages should be." Now Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the older was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah had weak eyes, but Rachel had a lovely figure and was beautiful. So now the extra Jew lore is the reason why Leah had weak eyes was because she was crying a lot, because she thought she was going to be marrying Esau, the twin brother of Jacob, and that guy was horrible. So she thought she would be marrying a pretty horrible dude. because Laban had 2 daughters and Jacob and Isaac had 2 sons, and they figured that the older daughter would marry the older son. That was diabolical. Jacob was in love with Rachel and said, "I'll work for you 7 years in return for your younger daughter, Rachel." Laban said, "It's better that I give her to you than to some other man. Stay here with me." Yeah, after 7 years. So Jacob served 7 years to get Rachel. Bro, this dude was dedicated. But it seemed like only a few days to her because of his love for her. Then Jacob said to Laban, "Give me my wife. My time is completed, and I want to make love to her." Understandable, based. So Laban brought together all the people and gave a feast. All right, he made this epic wedding. Epic wedding. But when evening came, he took his daughter Leah and brought her to Jacob, and Jacob made love to her. She was wearing a veil. All right. So, by the way, this is where the tradition comes from that you in Jewish circles at least, that you lift the veil off of the wife by the wedding, because Laban tricked Jacob, and left the veil on, and Jacob thought he was marrying Rachel, but they swapped, and he actually ended up marrying Leah. So that is where the whole idea of you have to take the veil off to make sure that you're marrying the right wife. That's what that comes from, because Laban tricked his nephew Jacob and ended up doing some pretty diabolical things. So anyway, so that's pretty wild. Now, there is something really interesting here. I'll tell you in a moment. So Laban gave his servant Zilpah to his daughter as her attendant. Very nice. When morning came, there was Leah. Morning came. Jacob woke up, and he saw that he actually married the wrong sister, because Laban tricked him and swapped them by the wedding. Now, there's some really interesting lore here. Why didn't Rachel say something? Rachel should have known this, right? Rachel obviously noticed she wasn't getting married. Why didn't Rachel stop this wedding? Right? Why didn't she, trick, why didn't she get involved? Why didn't she protest? So, the Jew lore here is that Rachel didn't want to humiliate her sister, Leah. And because she didn't want to humiliate her, she was silent about it. Which is, like, unbelievable. Like, that's, damn. Well, what a goat. Rachel was actually the goat. And she didn't want to humiliate her sister, so she kind of just let it happen. Her sister, Leah, was crying her whole life that she would be marrying Esau, an evil guy, and here she is. They switch her around, and if she actually protests, it would absolutely humiliate her, and she just let it happen. Isn't that incredible? Yeah, Rachel's awesome. Big fan. Anyway, so Jacob said to Laban, "What is this you have done to me? I served you for Rachel, didn't I? Why have you deceived me?" So Laban deceived Jacob. That's pretty crazy. They tricked him, married the wrong daughter. So anyway, Laban replied, "It is not our custom to give the younger daughter in marriage before the older one." Insane excuse. Insane excuse. So Laban's like, "What do you mean? What are you talking about? What's the problem?" Whew, that's crazy. So he tricked him and then came up with some terrible excuse. "Finish the daughter's bridal week, and then we will give you the younger one also in return for another 7 years of work." So then Laban makes a deal with him. "Don't worry, I'll give you the other daughter. Don't worry, you can marry both of them. But only if you work for another 7 years." Damn, bro. That's crazy. So anyway, important to note, first and foremost, bridal week. This is where the lore comes from. After a Jewish wedding, there's basically 7 days of celebrations. And it comes from this, the idea that there's a whole week of celebrating a wedding. So finish Leah's bridal week and then marry the other one for 7 more years. 7 more years. Is that not insane? Someone in my chat just said you're next to the Prime Minister of Israel. Hell yeah, dude. Tell him, best of luck to you. All right? Tell him to sign whatever bullet they use on Khomeini. Tell them to write "Stay Weird, fam" on the bullet. Anyway, moving on. So another 7 years of work. So this is what we're at. And this is wild. So Jacob did so. he made a deal with him, and he didn't renege on his bargain. If I was Jacob, all right, I would have probably said, yeah, absolutely, 7 more years of work, and then left. Because he tricked you, and you trick him back. But Jacob did not see it that way. He made a deal, and he fulfilled his deal. Crazy, bro. He finished the week with Leah, and then Laban gave his daughter Rachel to be his wife. Laban gave his servant Bilhah to his daughter Rachel as her attendant. Jacob made love to Rachel. Also, his love for Rachel was greater than his love for Leah, and he worked for Laban another 7 years. What a crazy story. Dude made a deal and kept his word. I respect that. All right. Jacob's children. When the Lord saw that Leah was not loved, he enabled her to conceive, but Rachel remained childless. Because ultimately, this dude had 2 wives, and he liked one more than the other. And God, obviously, was merciful to the one that wasn't as loved. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, he didn't mean to marry her. Like, I can't even really fully blame Jacob here. He didn't mean to marry Leah. He was tricked into it. But anyway, Leah became pregnant, gave birth to a son. She named him Reuben. He said, "It is because the Lord has seen my misery." Okay, so literally all these next verses they only work in Hebrew. They don't work in English. Reuben is a compound word of Reuben, which means like I've been seen. So this is my son, right? Surely my husband will love me now. So anyway, this is not just Jew lore. This is reality. All right, you're about to be hit with one of the most ultimate facts of reality ever. Are you ready? A woman just wants to be loved by her husband. A woman wants her husband to love her. That is absolutely fundamental to everything. All right? Ultimately, that is what a woman wants most. Some want career, some want children, almost as much as they want a woman, their husband to love them. So this is Leah giving birth to a child, and the first thought is, surely my husband will love me now. Anyway, she conceived again, and she gave birth to a son. She said, because the Lord has heard that I am not loved, he gave me this one too. So she named him Simon, which is also a compound word of my Lord heard, or whatever. I could keep going for all of them. And then she conceived, and she gave birth to a son. She said, at last, my husband will become attached to me, because I have borne him 3 sons. So he was named Levi. All right, so anyway, the reasoning for why 3 sons specifically. Why is that ultimately the main reason? Why is that a number that will make him love her now? So the reasoning is simple. It's because Jacob had 4 wives. Jacob had 4 wives, and he would end up having 12 sons. So 3 sons ends up being 1/4, which is the set amount of sons per wife. That is the set amount of sons per wife. So she fulfilled her duty as a wife by having 3 sons. Anyway, so he was named Levi. She conceived again. She gave birth to a son, and she said, this time I will praise the Lord. Notice she's saying this time. What about the other times that she's praising the Lord? Why not this time? Why this time specifically? And the answer is because this time was more than her portion. If he has 4 wives, that means statistically each wife should have 3 sons, but this is a 4th son. So she got more than what was like set for her. So this time I'll praise the Lord, more than she even expected. So she named him Judah. And then she stopped having children. And this is the Judah that is, the great-great-great-great-grandfather of King David and, etc., etc. David's line, the Messiah, comes from Judah. So anyway, that is where we got. The Bible is pro multi-wives. The early Bible is pro multi-wives. Yeah. Yeah. Also, you have to remember something really important. Like, for example, it's later in the Bible, it says you're not allowed to marry 2 wives. It's two wives that are sisters. It directly states this. The term Jews comes from Judah. That is correct. The term Jews comes from Judah. Now, you're not allowed to marry 2 wives that are sisters. It says it straight up in the Bible, in Leviticus. So the question here is, how did Jacob marry 2 wives that are sisters? And the answer is actually pretty simple. The answer is actually pretty simple. It's because the Bible was not given to the people yet. The laws weren't given to the people. It was the Torah wasn't given, right? The 10 Commandments weren't given. That only happened in Exodus. That happened after the Israelites left Egypt. Only after that happened did they get the laws. Until now, there's no laws. It operates based on morals and code. But anyway, so that's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. True. What do you mean by 12 wives? 12 children? Okay. Basically, Jacob had knew, because he was a prophet. Jacob was a prophet. So he knew things about the future. He knew that he would have 12 sons, and 12 tribes would come from him. So he knew he would have 12 sons. So if he has 4 wives, then each wife would need 3 sons to complete the 12. So if Leah had more than 3 sons, then she had more than her portion of tribes that came from her. Anyway, that's the story. Moving on. Thank you. He did holy math. What tribe are you from? Probably Judah. I'm probably from Judah. Is Aaron one of the 12? No, Aaron is like the grandson of Levi. Or the great-grandson of Levi. Or the great-great-grandson of Levi. Yeah, most Ashkenazi Jews come from Judah, probably, and Levi. All right, moving on.